In our last few lessons, we'll use the animation tools that we've learned to create a really cool flight sequence. So here's where we get to put all that we have learned to good use. We'll create a really cool animation where we have our airship start to take off and then fly away into the distance. So let's say we go ahead and get started by first hiding any distractions right now, which would be the fueling line as well as its rig, because we don't need to concern ourselves with it just yet. I'll head over to Layers, and I'll go in and just hide the fueling line from here. And now we can go to the Filter menu and hide joints. Alright, so now we can go ahead and start our animation. Let's go ahead and set our maximum time to 360. This will give the audience enough time to read our flight sequence. We don't want things happening too fast. And we're going to start by animating on our group object. And then we can do a polish pass where we add secondary motions to our animation control. So grabbing the group object, let's go to about frame 137, and here's where we'll start to have the airship take off. Again, that will give us enough time to have the engine start up and then have the airship and start to take off. So again, on about 137, we'll enable auto key, and let's go ahead and record an initial keyframe. Now, on about frame 200, let's start to have the airship take off. So we'll go ahead and just lift it up in our y-axis, not too high, and then we can go ahead and play the animation back to see if we like the timing. Alright, great. So that's looking nice. So next what we need to do is add some anticipation to it flying away. Now, you might see anticipation where an object veers back before it starts to move in the direction it needs to move in. In this case, that would be unnatural for our airship. It would start to instead move forward just slightly, so that's the anticipation we'll add. Let's go to frame 266, and from there, we'll have the airship start to move forward. Alright, great. So here's what we end up with. When we hit play, it starts to move up. And now we can have it start to move forward. And then it's time to really have it take off into the distance. So we'll go to frame 360, and let's go ahead and translate it forward even more. Alright. Now what you'll see is that when we hit play, it'll really pick up speed, and that's what we want. But what we don't want is this overshoot we see. And this is simply because of the state of our position Z F-curve. Let's go ahead and take a closer look at that. We'll right-click and choose Show F-curves. And from the F-curve menu, let's go ahead and turn off Show All Tracks. And now we can select the position Z. And here's that overshoot. This is exactly why the ship moves back before it moves forward. So all we need to do here is kind of smooth out this key a bit more on 266. Let's hold down Shift and start to drag down with the left mouse button, which will lock our movement in value. Also, we can hold down Shift and drag left and right to lock the key in time. So those are some cool techniques I like to work with, just to make sure that we stick with the value or time we would like to for this key. So I'm just going to drag it down just a little bit, not much, because then that will start to slow down the timing when it really takes off towards the end. And then I'd like to show you some tangent properties we can use to smooth this out even more. So with the keyframe selected, if we were to use the T key, notice that will send us to a tangent menu that we can use to change the property of this selected key. So notice what 9 does. You can see it set to ease E, so if we were to go ahead and press 9, notice that kind of smooths out our overshoot. And then we can start to adjust our tangent from there to get a more natural look. Beautiful. So now when we play back the animation, let's go ahead and take a look at what we end up with. We hit play. The airship starts to take off. No more overshoot. And then it'll start to really pick up speed. Now one thing you may notice is as we start to get to the very end on frame 360, it starts to kind of slow down. The reason why is because of our flat tangent we have on 360 of the position Z. So you can see here it's starting to kind of flatline out to slow down the animation. So to fix this, we just need to adjust our tangent handle and lift this up so it'll, again, gradually pick up speed by the time we get to this last keyframe. So let's go ahead and see what this does now. We'll hit play. So the airship starts to take off, and then boom, it really picks up speed. Great. Now let's start to add a little bit of polish. So we don't want it to just translate up and then move forward. You see we have this very linear looking shape, very unnatural, because this is not what we'd see in real life. Maybe for robotic type of animations, but not for an airship as this. So what we would need to do then is start to add a little bit of bopping action in our y-axis. Let's go ahead and do that. Around frame 220, we'll just go there and kind of have the airship translate down. Since it translates up on the frame before, have it kind of swoop down. And then on about frame, let's say 250, we can have it move up again just slightly. So you can see it starts to swoop down and then moves back up. And now what we can do is kind of polish what we've just done here by moving back to the timeline and adjusting a few of our keys. So you can see on the position Z, we have extra keys that we don't need. So we want to go ahead and optimize the F-curve as much as possible. Let's get rid of keys that we don't need to work with. Otherwise, that might start to affect our performance in a negative way. Let's also go to the position Y now, and we'll press the H key to take a closer look. All right, so what we see here is something that's very smooth. However, we also know that a few of these poses happen on the same frame. And when that happens, again, we start to lose that natural feel to the animation. So what we could do is start to offset our keys just slightly from one another to create something that would be a bit more fluid. So what I'll do is go ahead and select the key on 266. I'll hold down Shift and start to drag that forward just a little bit more so that our ship will swoop down a little bit later on. And then from there, we can go ahead and take that same key that we've offset. And let's go ahead and just start to drag down its tangent handle just a little bit more so it kind of swoops down a little bit. And what that will do is prevent the y-axis from flatlining out all the way to the end of the animation, which again would be very harmful because it's unnatural. So now if we were to select our very last key on frame 360 and press the S key to take a closer look, we could see is that no longer does our tangent handle cause the animation to flatline out. We have this natural swoop. And then from there, we can go ahead and adjust the end tangent of our key on frame 360 again, so we don't flatline. So we have this really nice arc. All right, great. So let's go ahead and take a look at the animation so far. We'll hit play. So our airship starts to take off, very nice. Then starts to move forward. Beautiful. Now, one more thing I'd like to change before we move to the next lesson and start to really refine this is the beginning of the animation where the ship moves straight up. Again, this is very unnatural. There needs to be some variation to this. So what we'll do is simply go to our position Z track. Let's go ahead and press the H key. And we'll go ahead and select the key on frame 200. Let's go ahead and really zoom into it. We'll press the S key, kind of back up a bit. And holding down Shift, let's go ahead and start to just drag this down just a little bit more, just so that, again, the ship starts to move forward a bit. And notice we have this overshoot. I'll press the H key so we can take a look at that a little bit closer. So we know how to fix this. We can go ahead and work with our tangent properties. We're going to press the T key to go back to our menu and press the 9 key to smooth this out a bit to remove the overshoot. And now we can go ahead and make a slight adjustment to our key, just dropping it down just a little bit more, and then smoothing things out with our tangency. So now the airship will start to move forward just a little bit. And then we could always play around with the timing here and the spacing. We can go ahead and have it move forward just a little bit more and then smooth this action out, adjusting our tangency so we have more of an arc as it moves up. And that looks much nicer now. So in this lesson, what we've done was blocked in our flight sequence. So this is looking great so far. In the next lesson, we will add more polish.